Now this is Kampala, this is where I would fly into. It's a pretty manic sort of city. It does have its perks. It's got an organ that I can practice on once every couple of months. So forgive the wrong notes tonight, but it's a little while since I got any practice before I came here. From Kampala you fly over some spectacular mountains and some amazing countryside. You fly over the lake, Lake Albert. There's also Lake Victoria and Lake Edward in this part of the world, something to do with Queen Victoria's family, I believe. And Leopold was the first cousin of Queen Victoria, interestingly. This is flying into Bunia itself, and here we've got one of the roads. This is one of the better roads that goes past the gold mine. And you can say to yourselves, well, we've got nothing to do with this conflict. And, well, that's true, but true to an extent, because they're mining gold here. In other areas they're mining a metal called tantalum that is used in mobile phones, it's used in Sony PlayStations. When 80% of the world's tantalum comes from Congo, and when a Sony PlayStation 2 came out, at around the time that the war intensified, the price of tantalum rose 500% in just a few days. And it's that kind of thing that has been continuing to drive the conflict up until now. The minerals, unlike most places in the world where you've got deep mines, the minerals here are found in the top surface of the mud, and therefore they're very easy to get, and consequently very easy to fight over. Less attention is given to water. Here are some children who are having to carry huge 20-litre jerry cans of water every day, but they seem to be pretty happy. And despite all the problems. This is an army camp, and as you see, people are building houses out of anything they can get their hands on. Even tarpaulins and plastic carrier bags are used to patch up the roofs. It's very, very primitive conditions that people are living in. And this is a typical building, a very dilapidated condition. The jungle's encroaching many of these buildings, but that's typically what you find. And this is a very remote area. It's very beautiful, but it's quite difficult to get to. That again, it's not quite such a good road. I guess the car in front wouldn't be passing its MOT anytime soon. And that's our lorry in the background delivering vital medicines to one of the hospitals. As you see, the journey is fraught with danger. If the lorry goes off a few inches to one side or other, it ends up in the river and the driver gets eaten by crocodiles. So we don't make that many field trips out, but that's what happens when a car comes by car. A lot of motorcycle trips are made, but that's what a car looks like after a day out on the field. Thankfully it rains a lot, so it quickly washes off. And that's the main street of where I'm working. There are a few hundred kilometres of tarmacked roads in Congo, a country the size of Western Europe, and there's not a tarmacked road for hundreds of miles around Bunia. One of our rural health clinics, another shot of the city, a typical hospital, no water, no electricity other than what they can catch on the roof. They have solar panels to charge the emergency lights in the operating theatre. Ransacked during the war. Pretty village, site of a massacre. 200 people were killed in this village during the tribal massacre. So those who survived planned their revenge on the nearby town. The nearby town had the largest teaching hospital in this part of Congo, a hospital with a very fine reputation, and so they came and trashed it. They burnt it down, and 1,000 people who were sheltering in the hospital were massacred in 2002. And this is what's left of the hospital. But they are rebuilding it. We've been assisting rebuilding, and here we are training midwives in the rebuilt wing of the hospital on safer deliveries, and this is the new operating theatre that we've helped to kit out. This is another hospital, and this lady is one of the midwives, proudly showing off the delivery suite, which opened just a few months ago, and tomorrow this hospital will be taking possession of an ultrasound machine. We're very proud of it. The hospital doesn't have electricity, so we're having to get a little petrol generator to charge up the machine. I had a lot of difficulty trying to find an ultrasound machine that would run on battery power, because they're not designed to run on batteries. You plug them into the mains, and I phoned up the technician and I explained what I was looking for, and he said, "Why can't you plug it in?" Well, yeah, they don't have electricity. And here are some happy mums who have just safely given birth a few days previously. Here is a visit to one of the other hospitals. We're looking at the support given to the victims of sexual violence, medical treatment. This shows some of our health structures. This is about half of the area that we cover, but I just thought I'd show you this sequence because antibiotics that we take for granted, amoxicillin for example, it's a basic antibiotic. The health centres often run out of even the simplest antibiotics. If there's a grey circle, it means that the health centre ran out. If it's a big circle, it meant it ran out for the whole of the month of that's given. September 2007, many of the health centres went a whole month without even amoxicillin. And it gets worse. Frequent problems with drug ruptures. Here are hospitals where women are dying in pregnancy. In some hospitals, more than 1 in 100 women who come to the hospital die during the process of delivery. That's another hospital where we're sending the ultrasound machines to. Sexual violence. 20% of the women who are attacked, closer to 30% recently, are 18 years or under. Getting on for 10% are under 12 years of age. Quite shocking. And yet there is hope. Here, for example, we have a public meeting in the town centre, which was organised by survivors from the massacre that I mentioned earlier. People from both the hospital, the town where the hospital is, and from the village where the massacre took place. Survivors from the two massacres are on the stage together. Some of them killed their relatives, and yet they're on the stage, they've become Christians, and the churches are trying to bring these people together and reconcile them. And the man that you see in the foreground here, he was leading prayers that day. And his name is David. He is one of the pilots working in Bunia, the Mission Aviation Fellowship. His wife and children were attacked at the hospital where they were living at the time. And yet, a few years later, they were all back again, continuing to serve in this area. And he was asked to lead prayers for the day. He said, it's very difficult. But these are people who attacked my family. They destroyed my house. And yet, by the grace of God, we are as we are. We're reconciled with... we may not forget what happened, but we can forgive one another. And by that process of reconciliation, progress is being made. Here's a photograph just outside Goma. The refugees from Rwanda ended up in Goma, and outside Goma is a huge volcano. In 1994, people were concerned that it might erupt. Well, it did erupt. In 2002, and 90% of the city was destroyed. 400,000 people had to evacuate. The city's being rebuilt. As you fly over Goma, you see all these camps, tented cities full of refugees who have fled from Rwanda. And here's the city being rebuilt. The ground, what used to be the ground floor of some of the buildings, is now the basement because the road is 3 meters higher than it used to be because the main high street was flooded with lava. Here's the airport. Quite a difficult airport to land in because the lava flow, if you look at Google Earth, you'll see the lava flow actually covers half a runway. And only a few months ago, a plane took off from Goma, but it didn't quite make it to the end of the runway, and it crashed into the market at the end of the runway because it didn't get airborne in time. Congo has more survivors of air crashes than any other country on the planet. It also has the world's worst safety reputation for air crashes. And there isn't a single Congolese airline that is not on the European Union blacklist. So here we see the lava flow, and all the tents that are now people rebuilding their houses on the lava flow. The volcano is just a few miles north of here, and the runway is split in half. Some of the planes never managed to get off when the volcano erupted. They're never going to take off now. Quite incredible. There's a lot of wildlife in Congo, some of it not quite so pleasant, some of it more pleasant. But we live in quite a pleasant house. There's a team of 6 or 8 or so expatriates and about 100 people working in Congolese working in Bunia and Iziro. Church service. Caterpillars, yes. They're very nutritious, they're full of protein, and that's a typical Congolese breakfast. Those things are eaten live, but you can also barbecue them. And that's what they look like when they're barbecued. I was told they were very tasty, and so I thought I'd try them. They're not. In fact, they're the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life. Don't try them.